so it's the 5th of February 2016, and it's a second interview with Dermot Hartigan. No, Dermot, sorry.
We were just mentioning there about the third point of what the original demands of the pork butchers was, and it was to do with the pork butchers offered to work an extra quarter of an hour at the end of the day if people were not sent home from work in the morning when they reported, because they had to be in at work at 6 o'clock and they would be met by Alexandra Shaw, and if they were late at all they would be sent home and they'd lose a day's pay.
Okay.
And in the loss of the day's pay would mean an awful lot to people at that particular time. In monetary terms today it'd be very little, but back then it would have been a huge loss to somebody. And taking it that you're trying to get into work from the back streets of Limerick, coming up into the Shaw's factory for 6 o'clock in the morning, if you were 5 minutes late, 10 minutes late, and you were met by Alexander Shaw and says, "No, I don't want you today, you're late for work, go home." He wasn't sacking you, but he was actually reducing his wage costs for the day. And he would normally do this at the coldest time of the year when they were quiet, in order to reduce their costs for the day, because a lot of people might be in the months of January, February, March, when things were going quiet inside in these factories, they'd have a lot of people sending around with very little to do during the time, so they'd have a need for less workers. So by sending them home, he wasn't paying them a wage. So the poor butchers offered to work an extra quarter of an hour in the evening, to make up for the lateness. And he refused that at the very, very beginning of the strike. There was other issues that came up during the course of the strike as well, and one of those was the fact that what was regarded as apprentices, young boys whose fathers had worked in the factory, had been taken on, and they were being paid less than the poor butchers, and he justify this on the basis that they were training them in to do a job that they weren't skilled to do, and that, whereas the poor butchers maintained is that you can't pay a boy's wages for a man's work. They were doing the same work as their fathers or brothers or inside there, but they were getting paid that much less, and the poor butchers maintained that you can't.
It's not fair, and then basically
you can't be paying him less. No, he was actually in a way supporting the idea of the closed shop as well, that this was a father and son, from father to son work ethic, so that if you were outside the range of a family connection, you were not going to get a job working inside there. And he maintained that the reason that they were taking these people on is that they were naturally gifted to this kind of work because of their parental background. As well as the poor butcher support the idea of a closed shop, the factory owners were also supporting the idea of a closed shop. And in a way that they knew that if that loyalty is built up to who you are and that. The other thing that I'd have to say is that during the course of the strike, you had the three factories of Denny's, Madison's and Shaw's. Now the fourth factory was run by O'Mara's, and O'Mara's did not come into the dispute at any particular stage, because basically they're paying the rates, they're leaving people go during the salmon season rather than stopping and being late for work. But they're leaving people go off and work as abbey fishermen on the river when the salmon season is going and when there's profit for them. They're also Catholic, whereas also the other firms are Protestant. And so in many ways the Amaras have a little bit more affinity with the people that they're working from, and they have a more understanding of the life that these people are working for. But during the course of the strike, there's no mention in the newspapers about how the Amaras are getting their products out of Limerick. They're still buying the pig, they're still sending them out on the in some way. They must be either sending them by rail or by boat from Limerick docks. There's no mention whatsoever of this the whole way. And when I did my research on it, I was unable to find anything in the records of the Chamber of Commerce to that effect at that time. Now I think that they're more readily available now, but it is a gap in what I did. How did they actually get the product out of the country? Because the unions that are there at the time do not seem to have any dispute with Amaras at any given time. Okay. And yet they progress as if nothing has happened. And it's a crucial thing to try and find out how did they do this, or did the railway workers and did the port workers make a distinction between what was coming from Amaras and the other three factors, and it's a missing cog in the story, basically. Right. The other thing that I wanted to mention to you about was the nature of the strike, and Maura Crone covers this quite well in those first two chapters of our book, Country Class or Craft. The type of strike that was being run here was that the pork butchers came together and they amalgamated in all the three major ports, which was a new fad that was going on not just in Ireland at the time, but it was an idea coming from England. A lot of the old craft industries in Limerick were beginning, in Great Britain were beginning to amalgamate, so that the old system that had been there was the guild system. So you had one trade and one union of bakers or butchers, or bakers or stonemasons or tailors, and that they were all one trade, and there was nobody else employed in that trade. And so they had developed, first of all, the idea of bringing it from father to son, which both the pork butchers, with their new form of union, tried to continue, but they also managed to do that in conjunction with amalgamating with the other cities. Because what would happen in the past with the trade guilds is that Limerick did not connect with Cork or Waterford or Galway. It was much later that they began to do this with industrialisation. Because if you can imagine that if you were a stonemason, you just built a house in Limerick or Cork or Waterford or wherever you were. So you didn't want to have anybody coming in from any of these other centres into your town to do the job that you were capable of doing. Yeah. So they tried to control it in that way. And they also tried to control their wages on the basis of always having a shortage of people to do the job. Because that meant then that the price would go up. Because if you were looking for a stonemason or you were looking for a tailor, you had to be able to pay them whatever the rate that they were demanding. Now, these old crafts also developed the idea of the lockout, so that if they were not getting the wage that they were demanding, and if somebody else was brought in, if a farm labourer was brought in who had the skill as a stonemason or whatever, but didn't have the papers to prove that he was from the area, Sorry.
Excuse me, so sorry.
What they would do is they would organise a lockout, and everybody would stop working. So that if I was working here for you and somebody else was working at the other side of the town for somebody else, and there was a problem with somebody coming in from outside to do the job, and it was with me here, I would just say, I'm stopping working. All my mates are stopping working as well, and they would close up the shop, and they would lock out the business until they got what they wanted. Now, the new unions that were coming were different insofar as that a lot of them were industry based, and that meant that you needed numerous different skills to work within the factory. So if you were working for the pork butchers in town, and you were a butcher, a clerk inside the place was regarded as part of this family of butchers as well. So they were all part of the one unionised structure. And if they weren't, then the union would say, well, we're not working with him because he's not affiliated to our union. So there was a difference in that sense. Then it started because of the new communication between Britain and Ireland through the railway system and through the ships, the new steamers. There was a better communication between different places, and you'll see there at the start of Maura Cronin's book that she quotes from an issue in the Cork Examiner. Not that one, no, in the second one. She quotes a piece at the very, very start of it, which is talking about the new amalgamated unions have more affinity with their kindred tradespeople or kindred workers in the factories in Hull or in Liverpool or wherever it might be. So then they have with a town down the road to them. Now, that was the perception that the newspaper had at the time. But it was beginning to also change in that time because the craft unions in Cork were beginning to talk to the craft unions in Limerick, and they were seeing what rates were going on in the different places, and they were trying to equalise them. And the pork butchers were doing exactly the same thing. Because when the pork butchers, influenced by the seamen unions and the railway unions, when they began to see what they were doing and how they were controlling the wage conditions and that, they began to do it in such a way that they decided to amalgamate with the other unions in the other places. So when Limerick amalgamated with Cork and Waterford, they could now see the disparity in the wage rates. They could see the disparity in the hours that they were working, and in the general conditions that they were working under. And that brought them together in a way that gave them that information that they didn't have prior to that. Now, the other thing as well is that the pork butchers wanted to align themselves to the wage rates that the tradesmen were getting, because they would be getting a lot more than how to put it, the butchers were getting. And so they were trying to bring themselves up to that, and they were trying to introduce some of the standards and conditions that they had into the poor butchers union, which was nearly an impossible thing to do because they're not talking like with like. And I'm not disputing the fact that they were entitled to a wage increase here, but what I'm saying is that even though the trades guilds were the original trade union structure, the new industrialisation era that was coming in, and especially in the pork factories and in Tate's clothing factory and other places like that, we're introducing new industrial methods with all these different skills coming in under the one roof. So it was always going to be very hard to equalise
the
pay and the conditions and the hours from the start. It was going to be difficult.
Okay.
So a lot of the mistakes that are made because they're looking at other ideas and they're trying to bend them into their own situation. It takes a period of time before they get that right.
Okay.
But the other thing then is that the attitudes that the poor butchers had, or well, the trade guilds had to the poor butchers was one is that they're below us, and the attitude that the poor butchers had to the general labour was also the same thing. Do you know what I'm saying? They thought that, well, their work isn't as valuable as our work, and so you have this kind of class structure that's underlying the whole structure of the union set up in its original places. And once they're taking ideas that are coming from England, they're not getting it totally right. They're not doing exactly the same thing that's happening in England, because they're trying to meld it into their own society and the way things happen generally in their own society. But they do adopt this attitude of the sympathy strike, which is a part of the idea of syndicalism, which is again is an offshoot from the Marxist idea, because Marx's idea was basically that you controlled land, labour, capital and enterprise under one structure. Whereas syndicalism, or the idea of syndicalism, which was a part of this new unionism, was that the trade union movement would politically control all aspects, all political and economic aspects of life in the country. That came to kind of a conclusion in the 1913 lockout in Dublin afterwards. This is what Larkin was trying to put forward at that particular time. But here again is the difference between Michael Sheehan and David in their thinking. Was a lot of it is very similar. David's thinking is more to organise thing on the basis of a political structure, which basically was at that time was through the Irish Parliamentary Party. And although his ideas were far radical in that, he had hoped that this would be the structure, that a parliamentary party of its own, that what they would do is that they would split into different aspects after they had achieved home rule, and he would be able to follow the working man's and the farm labourers' way of life, whereas Parnell could go away and he could look after the big landlord or the big farmer or that. So this is David's viewpoint of it, and he felt because the majority of people were of his ilk, that he would have control over the situation democratically, whereas the labour movement had a different concept, and their concept was, or the trade union movement with the idea of syndicalism was that they would control the economy through the trade union movement.
Okay.
So that's how they were going to do that and do it democratically. They say that they're going to do it democratically, but how are you going to pit the electricians against the carpenters, and how are you going to get cohesion in their thinking? Is the drawback in that. Now, Michael Sheehan would have followed the syndicalist point of view,
Okay.
and David would have followed the political route. And if you go and look at the conclusion of the strike, you can see elements of that in it.
Okay.
No, but the other side of that is the general strike. There's two things about syndicalism. One is that once you win your case, that you would run everything through the trade union movement. So you'd organise all the society through a trade union structure. But to achieve that, their weapon in achieving that was the general strike. And the general strike meant that if the poor butchers come out as they did, looking for their rights and conditions, then anybody that tried to break them, the workers in other areas would come out and support them. Okay. Which is what happened in this particular case. Because if you read through and I'll give you a full list of the newspaper cuttings that I have on this, but if you read through that and you look at what's happening in the trade union structure at the time, every time that the manufacturers, every time that the merchants try to move goods, the railwaymen or the sailors are stopping it being moved at some stage or other. Once they realise,
I think you were saying this the last.
Once they realised that the stuff was coming from a factory that had locked out their workers, they basically stopped doing it. And this thing is the concept of the general strike. This is their weapon to get them.
Okay.
And it's an economic weapon. Will bring you to your toes by stopping our movement. So that's our power. We do the work. We make the profit. We do the work, and we want the profit. So that basically is what's going on there in the background. Now, as I was saying to you earlier on, the time is filled with the 1890s is coming to a conclusion where people's views are beginning to
change,
collate into one idea of where we're going. And from the time of the famine, from about the 1850s onwards, and maybe before, you can look at maybe the economic movement before that, repeated the Union and Catholic emancipation. That's the start of general mobilisation of people. And with that comes a lot of ideas comes out of it, which when you look at them first, you think that they're unrelated. But in very many cases, there are people that have been involved in this movement that have other ideas and have read other stuff and have seen other examples, and they're beginning to come up with these ideas. So you get the literary movement, you get Yeats coming into the equation, you have the Gaelic League setting up the Irish Cultural Organisation, you have the GA setting up the Irish Sports Organisation and tying in with the Gaelic League. You have the Catholic Church trying to get involved in these organisations because they can see the people are beginning to think in different ways that are outside what they're trying to achieve as far as a Catholic nation or a Catholic idea. And the Catholic Church are in very many ways that what they're trying to do is to set up an empire within the empires all over the world. Okay. So in very many cases you have the British establishment with their parliamentary system of government, And within that you have the Catholic Church operating with impunity and controlling what way people should be thinking. So you had and what they should be doing. So this leads on to things like the temperance movement with Father Matthews, where he goes around the country and he preaches abstinence from all forms of alcohol. And he's basically get these guys who are not going to Mass to go to Mass, get them to go to confession, get them to do this and get them to do that. And within the Catholic Church you have different views of what they're trying to achieve as well.
Okay.
Because you have people like Archbishop Pope, who sees a form of Irish Catholicism with autonomy in the way that they put forward their views on Catholicism to the Irish people, to structure within the culture of the Irish people. And then, as opposed to that, you have people like Dr. Dwyer, who is totally committed to Rome and to a Rome rule situation, and he's quite prepared to talk to anybody within the country in order to achieve what he's trying to achieve. He can be quite arrogant about it in lots of cases. He doesn't like the monasteries that are being set up, but he will use them. The reason he doesn't like the monasteries is because they have their own rule of commands. They have their own abbot in the monastery, or they have their own superior general in the monastery. He has a fierce argument with the. Once you read that in there,
this one?
Yes. The book on it, where you'll see that he had a huge argument with a lot of the monasteries, the organisations like the Christian Brothers outside in Rough.
Right.
And it's basically over who controls the school. Is it going to be the Christian Brothers, or is it going to be the secular Catholic Church? In other words, people that are under his control. And he has a huge argument that goes on outside there. Yet at the same time, when he comes into Limerick, he needs the Christian Brothers inside there. So he's not fighting with them, but he's fighting with the Christian Brothers outside in Brough. And it's a very interesting section of the book when you read it, the way he's trying to operate in the equation. Now, the other side of that is that when you put them all together, you see where the clash is going to come. Okay. Because their political viewpoints or what they're trying to achieve is basically clashing. Now, I think you'll see in the book, in that book, I think you'll see that at one particular stage, Bishop of the Wire is aware well in advance of the fact that Parnell is having an affair with Kitty O'Shea.
Okay.
But he never raises it as such well in advance. Yeah. Now, he doesn't like Parnell. Right? But he'd rather Parnell to David.
Right, okay.
You know, he has graded him as in a way because the reason he doesn't like Parnell is because Parnell ousted Isaac Burt as leader of the parliamentary party, and even though Parnell and Isaac Butt are both Protestants, Isaac Butt is a more moderate view of parliamentarism economically, and suits O'Dwyer than David is projecting at the time. But at the same time, he sees that Parnell is more in tune with him, and he has the control of the people. So he doesn't want to come straight in at them and say, I'm against you.
Right.
But what he's saying here is that I'll work around you. So that when the controversy arises between David and Parnell with the divorce case, a lot of people are seeing, or the world taking the view of not criticising Parnell for a long time, and even though the bishops go condemn him, and he's forced into a situation at the end that he has to condemn it. He doesn't condemn it until he's at the very end of the issue. He has no place else to go, because what the bishops say, if you don't come out in support of this document and make a statement to that effect, to the effect that you do not support Parnell, we will report you to Rome for supporting him all along.
Right.
That's the short way of saying it. And he doesn't want to be reported to Rome as being a supporter of Parnell. So he comes out and supports him. But this is the reason that he doesn't want, or there were, even though the Cork people, when they were settling the dispute in Cork, they bring in the Bishop of Cork in to do it, but they also bring the wire in to settle it. But when it comes to Limerick, even though it's agreed that David would be there for to press for the workers, the wire cuts him off, has the meeting before before he gets there, and that's part of the context of what's going on outside the door. The other thing in the wire's favour is that he tried at various occasions to teach in schools and actually hated it. Teaching. But as an idea of furthering education for the general public in the country, he comes up with very innovative ideas. This structure here, this institute here is part of his idea, which is basically to train teachers to teach in schools, whereas before there were ordinary people that came in that didn't have the training. For to teach them. So he's very good on the educational structure inside there, but he wants to control it from a secular viewpoint. He doesn't want, he brings in the Sisters of Mercy, here for to run the school in the initial stages, and it was all run by, it was all female teachers that were done. That were taught in there. There was no males in here, all females, but he gets the nuns to do that. So he's quite prepared to use the monasteries and the convents, but at the same time, what he's not prepared to do is to leave them have total control over. He has a big beef against the confraternity.
Against who? Sorry? The
confraternity.
Right.
You won't remember it of your age. The confraternity was a big thing in Limerick for years. It was a huge structure in Limerick City. You had the men's confraternity, which were in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And on Friday you had the boys' confraternity.
Okay.
And it was like it was very, very close to being a requirement to go to church on a Sunday. You had to be a member of some section of the confraternity to get there, and that went on for years. They could always boast of having one of the biggest confraternities in the world. But it was nearly a mandatory thing that you would go there as such. Bishop Moore would have been envious of that type of control over people, because they were not under police control.
Okay.
He looked himself as a local pontiff, the local leader of the Catholic Church in the area, and everything had to basically be under his control in some form or other. And if he wasn't, he seemed to go against it. So if you were prepared to come in here as Sisters of Mercy were, Sisters of Mercy, and operated under his structure or under his control, you had no problem.
Okay.
He gave you everything you wanted. But if you were going to have an independent mind anyway whatsoever about it, he was down your back, So I don't know if there's anything else that you need to.
No, that's it. Dermot, you've given a lot of information there. This is just yours then, so making sure the grievances, union employers, conflict, strike and lockout, all out.
Well, I have a lot of more work to do on that.
Okay.
On that now.
So this is the one that I have at home, so is it?
It's the one that you have at home,
Yeah.
but it's the section that you were looking at is their extractions
Okay.
from it, and what I was actually trying to do there is to prove that the merchants were lying as the amount of money that was coming through in terms of pigs killed in the town. Because if you can see from the census what was being killed. Now some of it I had to estimate because I didn't have figures for Amaras, and I think it was Amaras, and there was two structures that I didn't have information from.
Okay.
And because of that, I had to estimate what they were doing. They had less than the other people, but.
Okay. So this is this what I have? Is that your actual masters?
No,
this is your new one.
That's the one that I'm working on.
Okay.
I was unhappy with the conclusion that I had done in it because
in your thesis, is it?
Yeah, because I was going to Spain the following day and I had to have it in.
Yeah.
And I was up all night for and I was just so tired that I just banged what was in my head into the thing and just said, there you are, gone. And it was kind of rushed to finish it, and I wasn't very well at the time, and I used to be getting very tired very quickly because I had to get a angioplasty done shortly after. So no sympathy with that. It's just that with the way that I did it, I just felt that I didn't do the.
You didn't do justice.
I did justice to it.
Forget about
so that's
that.
That's why I'm trying to change it.
Do you want me to take this for the moment?
If you want to take that, you can tape it and copy it. But just remember.
Well, do you know what? You hold on to this one first. I'll read the other one.
Yeah.
And then I can touch base with you again, maybe if there's something else that comes up. And will I take your undergrad thesis?
You can take that, but again,
Thanks,
you can copy it if you wish. But
I'll stop these. So thanks, Dermot. Thank you.
But if it's the interview on Tony Kinane.
Yeah.
That I think that
is the one that's most relevant.
And there's a description, I think, on page 65, the killing of the pig.
Right. 65. No.
Oh, it's 65 and on. Yes, there is, because the thesis is one and the interviews I've numbered the interviews from 1 to whatever, separate.
I'll have a read of that. Thanks, sir. Thank you.
But there's an interview of the. There's a part of it there on the killing of the pig. But what I would have to say to you is that that's not entirely the interview. The way that they were doing it now inside the factories. It's the old way of doing it.
Which is a good
because you can. Myself and Tony are talking about how salty the beef was, because this is somebody that's killing their own beef. giving their own pig, and how salty it was. And Tony was mentioned there, I said, geez, after eating all that, you'd have to go to the
pub to drink.
And he said, he says then that it's no wonder that we were all alcoholics. But if you listen to it on the tape, the way that comes across, you'd have to laugh at it, to be honest with you. And that's the way Tony was as well. He could, unlike a lot of people that interview that kind of speak down. Tony projects his voice out. You can hear him all over the place. So it was a great interview. Maura actually mentioned it afterwards as well.
Very good. Thanks, Dermot.
There's something else, Here's one of the
Munster News, Limerick and Clare.
The Russian Baking Company Limited. That's the company that's set up by, what date is on it?
It's 1891, May 9th.
Limerick started May 9th, 1891. That's the company that's set up by Amara in Russia for getting bacon. So, you think about it, that ran right up to the Russian Revolution.
When was that, Dermot? If you know offhand, I don't know.
The Russian Revolution is 1917.
19, okay.
So 1891 right up to that.
Okay, I'll give you those. Okay, Dermot, thank you. I'll stop these. Thanks, Dermot.
There's two there.